Hi, and welcome to the weekly AI podcast. How are you today, Pavan?
I'm very good, Matthias. It's great that we can talk about the most exciting things in AI this week.
Definitely. Yeah, we have been this week. We have been playing around quite much with Midjourney, which is quite amazing image transformer. And you tried it out also, some Pavel. So, what is your experience? Is it same as DALL-E, or do you see any differences in?
Well, I found it to be much more artistically inclined. So I tried to generate images that were connected to feelings, to emotions. And Midjourney is actually, in my opinion, doing a tremendous job in expressing thoughts, emotions, and I've seen people do that much more. Whereas, again, in my experience in DALL-E, you can create very technical images, very good technical images, whereas the emotion side, like the pain of nullity or achieving greatness, is not expressed so well. And I mean, it's fascinating. I have no idea why one is doing so well in this aspect and the other isn't. So this is, like, for me, it's super interesting to find this out.
Yeah, I guess bottom line, it comes down to data set they are trained on. I know since before, because when OpenAI set out to build the first DALL-E, somebody had a bright idea, but pretty obvious once you think about it, to actually scrape the internet of images and use the image description tag, so the alt tag, as the input, because this is a tag where you write what description of an image, what is on it, so that becomes your input, and you take the image as the output. So this way they could download and get access to a humongous data set just by basically using the Google image search or other type of sources.
So effectively, we can assume that Midjourney has been trained in a quite similar way, but the input images somehow were tagged better into understanding emotions, and maybe they were more art related than kind of, this is a block of ice versus this is a ice cold heart.
Yes, definitely. It's a data set that have strong connections into design, like digital design, digital artwork, series. Like it feels probably this information is available, and we should look into it until next week. But it definitely used a different kind of data set, and we can see that Midjourney really shine when it comes to, say, the type of fantasy art. I don't know the right term for it. While DALL-E 2 really shines. It kind of shines all over the spectrum, but I would say the Midjourney beats it on its own game. So the artistic type of things. But on the other hand, what I have seen, Midjourney are not the best when it comes to realistic stuff. So photorealistic images.
Yeah, I've seen very similar thoughts from my side. Now, what's fascinating to me is how completely different the origins of these two systems are. So, for me, looking at the origin of DALL-E versus the origin of Midjourney, where Midjourney is driven by mostly a single person, yeah, and the whole system is supported by donations and effectively goodwill of the community, from what I understood. Whereas DALL-E tool is a designed, I don't want to say product, but it's an outcome of multiple years of research done by a team of highly skilled technical people that are, paid a salary, and they're basically work in an organized company, which is OpenAI. Whereas Midjourney seems much more like a community-driven product, and it's fascinating that the level of technology can be achieved from completely two different ways of approaching software development in general, right?
Yes, I was just checking up on Midjourney a little. What really surprised me is that so basically they are 11 or 12 people, so a really small team. It's led by David Holtz. He's the founder of Leap Motion and a researcher at NASA. So that's super impressive, actually, that they managed to achieve this with such a small team. Still, I'm super interested in what type of data set they have used and where they are aiming to go next. And overall, I see such big potential right now in this technology, because basically what is needed now to really see commercial applications is that somebody takes and train this type of systems in narrow areas. So just don't say shoes or cars or anything like that. And another interesting thing, as we talked a bit about during the week, is that as soon as this more narrow applications get released, basically the whole how do you say the whole profession of being, say, a Photoshop editor more or less will go extinct overnight.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of a skill set, yeah, and what is a skill set, dramatically changes from my perspective, and again, the ability to generate very high quality images, yeah, because this is where this is the next step, which will be taken, as you said, is that these models that are trained very specifically will also result in the quality of the design. Now, the quality of the design, I mean, again, Mats, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next step is the ability to generate a 3D image out of this image. I'm thinking like shoes are a great example, yeah, or whatever other object of general purpose use you can imagine, like a phone holder or shoes or a cup. And to get that to a level that it will be 3D printed or it will be sent to a design manufacturer is really where I see the productization of this technology take the easy steps. And then the other one is I see the skill set around design in general. So designing houses, cars, designing, furniture, and everything that I think the most startling effect to me is the creativity, right? Because their creativity is a uniquely, and maybe it will be a little controversial for you. You'll laugh at me, but for me, creativity is a uniquely human trait. Yeah, like creating something out of nothing. And here it seems like if I know overall what I want, something can be created out of nothing. If it's a shoe, great, but it can also be a design of an artwork or a picture or a phone case or a couch. Yeah. So I don't think the AI really cares what it's designing.
Definitely. No, the AI doesn't care about anything because it doesn't have any type of emotions. But such application you're talking about, yeah, it's very viable. I mean, you can use one system to actually create a design and a visual, so say a normal image, and then basically use a secondary system, a transformer, where the job of that one is to actually transform an image into a 3D mesh, for example, that then can be used in production. And there are already a couple of AI models that does similar stuff. So, for example, you have models where you basically can take an image, just a normal image of a person, and you get a 3D mesh you can import into Blender or other type of 3D rendering software.
But I mean, it's I think only this week, because it seems like a blur, but it's this week that Google released Party, right?
No, I don't think it was this week, and I'm not sure when it was released, or if it even is released in any type, if anyone can access it outside Google itself.
Because I'm thinking, like, it looks like this is a very visible disruption. So people can very easily, like, people can go to our LABLAB.ai Discord, and they can actually play around with the with Midjourney, right? They can just go in very easily, go and try it. And for me, this kind of text to image transformers will bring AI much closer to the day-to-day use of anybody out there. And what I'm really, curious about is that it looks like every big company and every small NASA scientist is coming out with their own system. So these systems will be better and worse and so on, but it looks like there's a lot of power in these systems. These systems will become extremely valuable, right? Like, access to these systems is super valuable. I've seen people selling access to DALL-E for like a few $100s online, and because they can do their job so much better, or they can make money with it. And it looks like, accessing these systems becomes a value of its own. If you don't have access, you're in a bad position. If you have access, you can actually be in quite a good position for whatever you're planning to do.
Yeah, AI is the currency of the future, and we can already see, like you're saying, and we talked about previously, that no, it's not accessible for anyone, and to have access 2 months or 4 months before competition, yeah, that gives such a unfair advantage. And all predictions around this really point towards that this is the future we are heading towards. So in much cases, your success moving forward can be very much based on, do you have access or do you not have access? And that can be maybe a bit comparable to today's world, where basically, do your startup or your organization, do you have access to capital to move forward, to take market, etc.? So yeah, it's definitely exciting times, and it's moving so fast. Like it's even hard for us, I think, to grasp how fast AI is moving. And if we compare such a thing as image generation and image transformers, and we just got 12 months back, like, who could imagine that we would be where we actually are today? But to move a bit forward, do you have anything exciting you have seen this week in the news around AI you want to talk about? No, if not, I have one thing. I know this has been a very busy week for us both, so not all too much time to leisure around in the news feed. One thing I stumbled upon and I posted on LinkedIn. It's not fresh from this week. I think it's last week, but Google released a report that basically stated that over a 3-month period in their test groups, 3% of the code was generated by AI. We have seen numbers from other tools such as GitHub Copilot, that is powered by OpenAI Codex, that had indication on much higher percentages. And I think if we actually take into consideration this is a 3-month run and so on, we can imagine that the amount of code that are automated by AI today are significantly higher than 3%.
Yeah, I think I found this fascinating, but I also found it fascinating that Google, employs 15% of all AI experts that are there. So, like for me, the news is a connection of AI is becoming the currency of the future, and people that know and understand and can apply AI are becoming the asset. Yeah. So this asset is being taken away from the market very quickly, and American companies cannot find AI experts. Universities cannot find any professors. Yes. When Elon Musk goes on stage for Tesla AI Day, it's just a recruitment event, and he is very clear. He's blunt, like, come work for Tesla if you like AI. So for me, it's fascinating to see the outcome of this. So the outcome is 3% of code generated by Google. And by my rough estimations, 3% of total budget for Google for software engineering is about $1 billion, if I remember correctly. And this means that, that them having this investment in the AI expertise and having the tools to deploy AI is today saving them $1 billion per year. But as you said, this is like 3 months ago. So who knows? Maybe now they're saving $10 billion on code generation, or maybe they will be saving $15 or $20 billion after a 12-month period. And for me, it's super interesting to see how can anybody catch up to companies that have such a huge advantage of cost saving in software development, for example.
Yes, definitely. I believe if we're looking into the upcoming future, rather than thinking about cost saving, it's rather about progression, like how much progression, how much output can I achieve with the resources I have. So if I, with the empowerment by these systems, can create 5x more output, for example, I will consistently be on a faster path forward than my competition. And looking at where AI is going, I believe a lot like the core race in AI, it will be over within the next 24 months. And those that are in the leading position by that time, they will very likely remain in a leading position. And we can just relate to, say, the computer industry or the internet industry, like those that was early, they got that leading position. Sure, today, maybe not every one of them are like the #1 companies, but they all are almost among the bigger companies in the space, and they are still there because you got such a unfair advantage already then once you got to the top. But now with AI, it's a totally different ball game. And when the AI systems, so when we reach the point where it's kind of AI system against AI system, it's hard for anyone else to catch up, because now you cannot just with a human workforce catch up on these systems, because it's the systems that are driving it. So whoever have the best system will consistently move faster. So it's a very exponential and pro acceleration, so to say. So it will be, it will be super interesting to see what happens over the next 24 months. It will be super interesting to see how will these big tech companies of today try to adapt into this, because at one side they're investing heavily into this. So are Google able to create 5x more output, or do they need to take, I mean, to be frank, most they have a job where it's based around taking the input from another person and then realize this by doing the right commands and so on. That specific task or piece of work will not really be relevant soon. Expertise is still very relevant, because just as we explained for somebody else what we want, if we don't know the terminology or how to actually express in detail what we want, we will probably not get things that are so precise, so to say. So it's just like explaining for another person. If we are extremely precise, we probably get the result close to what we want. But if we are not so precise, there is a much bigger chance of variation in the final output, so to say.
I mean, I find fascinating and kind of correlates to an interview I've seen Kobe Bryant do. Yeah. So Kobe said, I get up at 4 a.m. and then I train 5 to 7. I rest 7 to 9. Then I'm back at it, 10 to 12. Then I rest and I'm back at it. 2 to 4. Then I rest and I'm back at it. 5 to 7. Then I rest and I'm back at it. 9 to 11. And then I go to sleep. So a normal person puts in 2 free training sessions. He puts in 5. So after 10 years, he dominates the court in the NBA, because nobody can really catch up after that. Yeah, none of his peers can get to that level. And I mean, it's super hard, I believe, for people to understand that the exponential element of this growth, right? But we see new technologies coming from Google, from OpenAI, from Midjourney, from so many other companies. And I believe that they are fueling each other. Yeah? That one progresses another. A new research paper progresses another research paper, another research paper, and they are drawing from each other. And soon, very soon, it will be perfect. Now, when it's perfect, it will create a huge market disruption. And whoever is able to use it, they will ultimately be able to win in a specific niche of the market. As you said, people will still need to understand how to use it and how to generate it and how to apply it. But the value of, like the graphic industry is $52 billion this year. And that value, $52 billion, is spread around, economies from India to the UK, to the US, to the European Union. And I think we will very soon see billions of dollars of this AI value shifting to the winning countries, to the winning geopolitical spectrum. And this is, as you said, the currency of the future, right? Whoever has the systems can generate the value, can generate the revenue, and therefore the economy will prosper if they have AI. So for me, that's kind of the big element of the news, is that it starts to all interlock, like AI regulation, AI model generation, who has these models, who is able to use them, what are the limitations of using them for commercial gain. I think, going back to Midjourney and DALL-E, Midjourney is so much cheaper than DALL-E, by the way, right? It's the price is so different, and I'm wondering whether it will have impact on the selection. Like, who will determine the selection? Will it be the price of the system, or will it be accessibility, or will it be the legal aspect? Can you use it or can you not use it? I don't think there's any real answer right now. I think this is like a completely new world, like a completely new galaxy, and nobody really knows.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the case price difference could very well boil down to such a simple thing that amount of variables, so to say. So we can see the Midjourney are very towards rendering design, artwork, and this type of stuff, while DALL-E is very much 360 degrees. So this means that DALL-E probably have a much more parameters. So usually when we look at, say, transformer AI models, we look at GPT-3 that have 175 billion parameters, if I remember correct. And then we have other engines that have less of them. So basically, the more parameters you have, the more heavy it will be to actually run the job and get the output. And I know myself about 12 months or 10 months back, actually, I was running the early version of the same system that are running DALL-E 2, well, hosting it myself and running and doing the image generation on machines at AWS, I think, and it is very, very computing heavy. And we can see a way for OpenAI to scale was that, so initially with DALL-E 2, you got the 8 small images, then they cut it down to 6, then down to 4, basically, to increase the capacity. And I think Sam Altman was tweeting at some point the other week. He liked to wake up to the smell of frying GPUs or GPUs frying or something like that. So yeah, they are probably putting all the compute they have accessible on trying to scale this. Still, this stuff, okay, you can use it in posts and blog posts and so on, but until we have an API, until we... So for example, if OpenAI now would allow such thing as fine-tuning, like they have on the GPT-3, where you can take actually your own data set and add on top of the base of GPT-3, they would allow this for DALL-E 2. We will probably see a flood of narrow case applications. And one thing DALL-E 2 can do that Midjourney can't do is with DALL-E 2, you can actually highlight segments of a picture image or remove it and get it to kind of fill the gaps. So yeah, super exciting stuff. Not so many other takeaways from this week, but hopefully next week, the upcoming week, we will have some good stuff incoming and a little bit more time to check out what's happening on the market.
Yes, definitely. That will be very cool to see more stuff happening next week. I think there's a lot of financials that are happening, like very cool deals that are happening that we're discussing a little bit less, but we're discussing kind of the performance of the AI systems. So I think we'll see a lot of cool stuff, and I'm very excited, and I really like to have these conversations where we understand, or I understand a little bit better, why certain systems behave the way that they do. So it's very nice to understand. Thank you very much, Matthias, for explaining stuff to me and to our audience. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yes, definitely. So everyone have an awesome upcoming week. And if you want to play with Midjourney, head over to LABLAB.ai. You will find a link there somewhere, maybe in the footer, maybe in the header. I think both places. Click on the Discord, get in on the Discord server. You will have a channel called Image Transformers. Head into that channel and simply write /imagine and write your prompt. You will probably need to click a button to accept the terms of service. That was not correct said. What do you say? The TOS. Terms of...
Yeah, the terms and conditions.
All right. Yes. accept that one, and you are good to go. So yeah, it's if you hear this right now, in 1 minute from now, you can be generating really cool images with one of the world's most powerful transformers in the image space. So yeah, thank you everyone, and bye bye.